I think art affects people maybe more than they realize, because we all move, we all sing in the car, we all draw at times. It's in there, and it just needs to be acknowledged a little bit more and given a little bit higher place in society.
The people you know as you've never known them. This is Forefront.
The arts in San Diego has grown in stature exponentially the last quarter century in all forms of music, in the theater. But in the world of dance, there is one man who had a vision of what it could mean to San Diego. And it has brought in turn national and international recognition. His name is John Malashock, and he joins us today. So good to see you.
Laura, I'm delighted to be here with you.
Do you remember the last time we talked?
It was a few years ago.
It was 9 years ago when we're going to show our viewers. We'll take a step back in time and look at that. But Malashock Dance, what you started in 1988, in 88 was something truly, as I said, visionary. Tell me about what's, in a nutshell, what's going on now?
Well, the move to Liberty Station and having our own facility has, been a sustained, exciting thing for these last 8 years. It's allowed us to develop the school, allowed more and bigger creative projects, and it's allowed us to develop programs out throughout the community in a lot of different schools and collaborative organizations.
And also some original works will be coming up.
Lots of original works.
All right, okay, well you can just think about those original works, and we're going to go back to a time when I was talking to John Malashock 9 years ago on Forefront. So let's take a step back in time. John Malashock was born in 1954 in Omaha, Nebraska. At the age of 7, he and his family moved to Switzerland for a year, then moved back to the U.S. to La Jolla, California. John was a shy kid, but in high school he broke through the shyness by acting on stage. After graduating from La Jolla High School, he went to the University of Colorado in Boulder. That's where he discovered his love of dance. John transferred to Southern Methodist University in Dallas, Texas, and majored in dance. After graduation, his dance career took off by leaps and bounds. John danced with companies in Utah, Paris, and New York. His love life took off as well. In Utah, John met his wife Nina, a fellow dancer. They have a son named Duncan. After 10 years of intense performing and starting a family, Malashock needed a break from dancing. He moved his family to San Diego. But 2 years later, John returned to the dance studio. In 1988, he founded his own modern dance company, Malashock Dance. Over the past 3 decades, Malashock has performed in, produced, and choreographed more than 60 stage shows and films.
And fold open here.
He's also taught at numerous workshops and universities.
5, 6.
His next venture, developing a permanent home for dance in San Diego at the Old Naval Training Center in Point Loma, Dance Place San Diego. A dancer, a choreographer, and a visionary all wrapped up in one man. Talk about the realization when you understood that being in theater, and presumably starting in high school and then going to college, what was it that said to you, I'm comfortable here, I'm challenged here, this is where I want to be?
Well, when I was in high school and I started doing some theater work, I think my first performing experiences had that kind of intoxicating quality. It was like, certain people just gravitate toward the stage and they feel right there. And I had that kind of feeling. But when I got to college, I started becoming very aware of a discomfort on stage, that I felt awkward at times. And I became aware that a lot of other actors were that way too. And dance was suggested as a way of helping with a kind of physical comfort and a way of being relaxed, so that the body could be matching what the words were saying. And so I took a couple of dance classes, and that's where I had that feeling of, oh, this is more right for me. This is my art form, not theater. But I have to say, I never lost my love of theater. In a way, the storytelling aspect of it is really what interests me. And so I've carried the love of theater into dance.
What does a dancer do? Send out resumes or tapes? How do you get a job?
Well, now, I mean, there is where a lot of luck starts coming into play, and just sort of letting yourself drift a little and hope that you drift the right direction. In this particular case, a company came to town and was performing, and I was just blown away by the performance they did. And so it led me to pursue them and say, hey, I want to come and study with you guys. So things happened very quickly. I went and took a summer program that they did, and then they offered me a job in the company.
And this was the Utah Repertory Dance Theater.
Correct.
So you end up from Dallas going to Utah.
Yes.
Was it a progressive company that you were with? How big was it?
It was a remarkable company, actually. It was 12 dancers. But the biggest experiment was that the company had no single artistic director. It was actually a democratic company, meaning that the company members had a vote of what we were going to do. The company members were choreographers as well as dancers.
So as a result, what were the best things that you took away from that experience in Utah?
Well, the variety of work that I got to do. I worked with some remarkable choreographers, and it was really a very, very strong performing company, and we got to tour a lot. And that's, I have to say, in the dance field, that's really where you learn your craft. When you're far from home, you've been out there for 4 or 5 weeks performing every night or every other night. That's where you really hone your performing skills.
So after Utah, a wonderful springboard, what happened then?
After Utah, I realized that I needed a broader experience, and an opportunity came up for me to work in a company in France, in Paris.
What was the name of that company?
It was Ballet Blasca. It was run by Felix Blasca, who had been a dancer with Roland Petit's company, and then he'd had his own company there in Paris for some time.
Was that the experience to end all for for a young man?
Well, it was a great experience. I mean, it was to live in Paris for a year, to be traveling all over Europe, to be performing in major theaters around Europe. It was great. I mean, it was artistically, it was important for me to begin getting a sense of what kind of work I liked and what kind of work I didn't like.
What did you learn about what you liked?
That I like dramatic work, I like emotional work, I like very musically oriented work. And I found that the stuff that was just purely abstract or that was kind of dissonant and just plain modern sounding was of less interest to me. After a year of being there, I began to feel like something was pulling me. I said New York was very much considered the heart of the dance world. And I felt like I had kind of been avoiding it for a while, and it was time to go and see what would happen there, try my fortunes in New York.
Tell me what happened to you.
I was in New York for maybe 6 months, just doing freelance things, doing dancing small concerts. And I began to start looking, okay, where do I really want to be? And I was in class one day, I was next to somebody at the bar, the ballet bar.
Thank you.
Yeah, who I knew was in Twyla's company, and I just said, hey, do you know if she's looking for anybody? And he said, well, actually there's an audition tomorrow. I think it's just for women, but you could show up. I showed up, I got in the company, that was it.
Twyla Tharp is like God. No, truly, in the world of innovators, of modern dance. And
well, she was absolutely at the height. coming into the peak of her fame right at that time in the late 70s and early 80s.
How many years were you with Twyla Tharp's company?
For 5 years.
When you left, did you know what you were going to do? Did you say, I'm going to start my own company? Or was it, I need some time to take this in?
When I left, I remember having an experience because when I was with Twyla's company, we performed a lot, and we were getting to where we were touring 5 or 6 months out of the year, which, some people live for touring and can live out of a suitcase comfortably. I found it hard. I
But
loved
that was smart. It's wise to know what you will live with and what you prefer not to.
Yeah. And at that point in my life, I was married. I had a little son at home. And the prospect of being out on the road 6 months out of the year was really getting exhausting. And I just remember one time sitting in my hotel room. We were in Milan, I think, actually. On this tour, we'd been to London and Rome and Milan. And I'm sitting there just sort of miserable. I'm thinking, if I'm miserable while I'm, out here in these wonderful places, it's time for a change. I had no idea what the change would be, but I'd had a good solid 10 years of performing at that point.
So when you decided to leave New York, you came back to La Jolla, to California?
Yeah, came back here to San Diego.
And did you come right out of your car and say, okay, I'm going to start my company now?
Nope.
Did you know you wanted to?
It was actually the last thing on my mind. I feel like I had been in dance for 10 solid years and was kind of tired at that point. I really didn't, I thought, well, here I am, on the verge of 30.
Oh, wow.
Old guy at 30. And, maybe it's time for a little more normal life. I just didn't know.
How long did it take from the time you came back to California to where you had the vision of starting your own company?
It was about 2 years after I got back here, in my 2 lost years.
What were the elements that you put into action?
I will say I didn't start out with a vision to start a dance company, and this is where I'm separating from some people who do. There have been a lot of efforts where somebody said, I want to start a company, I'm going to bring the resources together, and they do that. With me, it was much more organic at first. It really came from a need to be creating dance. It was not thinking about an organization or a company. It was just going in the studio, making movement, realizing I wanted to work with other dancers, realizing we wanted to put on some shows, and letting it grow from there.
Over what period of time would you say from I want to dance more and I want to be able to create more to the point where you would have your own place and a group of dancers that you could call upon?
Yeah, I think it was about a 2-year period growing into that, where I was making work, was starting to show work, getting nice response for it, and where I really let it sink in. Oh yeah, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is what I want to do. I want to do it as a professional endeavor for myself, and not have it be just something that I do on the side.
That sounds like it could be both terrifying and a relief.
It was both. It was, yes. That, it's one of those things where, if I knew then what I know now, who knows what would have happened. But that sense of purpose was very important, that sense of need to find a new way of expressing, and hope that was a way that people would find interesting.
Has it evolved as you have wanted it to?
Yes, I couldn't be happier about the opportunities that have happened here to work with other organizations. We've done projects with the opera, with KPBS, with La Jolla Music Society. We've really been able to do a lot, not just our own productions, but how our work can fit in with other art forms.
Fathom, which is truly a work of collaborative excellence. For example, these marvelous collages. How many of them? 30
There's
or
40 works of art that are in
10
this.
to 12 feet long that are displayed that are remarkable. The artist whom you collaborated with gave your idea.
Junko Chodos, yes. We developed this idea together to center the work around an ancient Buddhist monk who had very interesting ideas about the body and the body's potential for understanding.
John Malashock's powerful dancing and choreography has wowed audiences around the world for more than 30 years.
Panic! No, don't panic.
Malashock spent most of his career working on stage shows like Apologies from the Lower Deck and Window Dressers. But he branched out to another medium, film, both in front of and behind the camera. His first movie appearance, the Academy Award-winning film Amadeus. Malashock also produced and choreographed dance films called Love and Murder and The Soul of Saturday Night. Malashock's latest work brought him back to the theater. A show called Fathom, inspired by the life of an ancient Japanese leader and artist. So, when you look back at that time 9 years ago, did you think, how much further will we go? How much further can we go?
Yeah, that is something that's always in mind, but we were right on the verge of our move out to Liberty Station and to having our own beautiful facility out there, which gave us a lot of energy to move forward on developing a school that works with kids, you know, from young age all the way up through adult professionals, adult beginning dancers. We've just started a junior company out there. Wonderful group of young dancers who go out and perform all over the county.
And outside of the studio, you've got an outreach that goes to students here in San Diego.
We have a whole host of outreach programs. We're working with students really all over the county. We have a wonderful program working with developmentally challenged adults at St. Madeleine Sophie Center. We're working with the YMCA. Like I said, quite a few different schools. Molly Puryear, our managing director, who was our education director, has really developed an amazing lineup of programs.
I'd like viewers to understand how huge a move, literally, it was for you from your old facility to Liberty Station.
Yes, well, it was a great leap of faith on our part and our board's part to see what could happen there. The development of Dance Place San Diego, which is an entire building dedicated to the dance field, was huge for us. What it's done for the community is incredible too. It's given a very visible place for our art form, where work is happening all through the year. There's 11 studios in that building, including our beautiful, beautiful studio.
A little different from what you had in Balboa Park, which was just basically a studio.
Yeah, we were very appreciative of the space we were able to use in Balboa Park, but it was very limited time-wise. Just wasn't enough time to develop our work.
Did you have any idea what Liberty Station would become?
Well, it's vastly different now in the 8 years that we've been there. I mean, it really was a ghost town out there at first. And it did take some vision to realize what it could grow into, but it's an exciting place now.
It's a hub of all kinds of activity. And does it kind of feed your soul a little bit when you look around and see what's taken place?
Oh, it's a wonderful sense of community there, and that does feed us. All right, well, here we are at Dance Place San Diego. We moved in here in 2006, developed our school, and the company rehearses here, and we love this building. Dance Place San Diego is really home to San Diego's dance community. There's 11 studios in this building. 3 of the professional companies here in town are based here. We all have our different things we do, different approaches. We work together as often as we can, whether it's marketing or promoting what we're doing. We just started rehearsal last week on a new project called Snakeskin, but I want to show you 4 short little excerpts from the piece tonight. So we're going to start out with a solo of our Snakeskin character. Every small town has somebody who's just totally inappropriate, and our small town does. And so we want to show 2 kinds of love.
I look at the part where perhaps the core of your soul is, and that is in the creative aspect, the original productions that you do. I'm intrigued with a new production, one of the latest. Tell me about it. Snakeskin.
Snakeskin. Well, you're right. I mean, education is something I love, but being an artist, to create new programs is definitely where my heart is. Snakeskin's a wonderful collaborative project. I'm working with Christian Oberoi, who's the director of Sacra Profana, which is just an amazing vocal group here in San Diego. And he's writing an entire score of music, and we're creating a dance drama based on works of Tennessee Williams and the characters in Tennessee Williams' stage works. And it'll be with 8 musicians who also are singers from Christian's side, and 8 of my dancers. And yeah, we're going to tell a story through dance, but a very, very unconventional one, an exciting one.
In 25 words or less, how has the world of dance changed?
I get asked a lot about the television shows, So You Think You Can Dance, and it's changed people's perceptions a lot about dance.
Particularly modern dance.
Yes, but everything's encapsulated into 90 seconds of movement on those shows, so it's a little bit of a skewed perspective.
Whereas you have the luxury with Chagall or a Snakeskin of doing an entire presentation.
Yes.
I think we were talking about a generational change, it seems, in leadership in the arts. So many things have changed here recently in San Diego. New symphony, director of the opera, and many other elements, but Malashock has remained. How long does Malashock remain, and what do you envision for the next 10 years? Number 1, creative?
Yes, certainly, and that's another thing with moving to our new facility. It's allowed me to envision a little bit larger projects and bring those to life. And I do see continuing to do that. I have quite a few projects lined up at this point. But let me say first that for me, that continuing to grow, continuing to change is what keeps it interesting for me. Yes, I've been directing this company for 27 years, but it's changed so much in the feel and flavor, and I've seen so much change in our dance community.
And the public's receptivity as well, because I think we have much broader ideas of dance, certainly than we did 25 years ago, or even 9 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So this La Jolla High School graduate of 1977?
72.
72. I was trying to give you 5 years.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming back from the Utah Repertory Dance Company and coming back to San Diego and giving us all that you have.
Well, you're most welcome. It's been an incredible place to develop my work and have my career be based here.
Well, you deserve all the accolades you get, and true respect and gratitude as well.
Thank you.